camera To Kill a Mockingbird for Mrs. Kendall's final assignment. Shane was the producer, the cameraman, and the star. But of course everyone else was too.
The record thing ain't going off. Where are you two kids going at this time of day? I suppose you're playing hooky, huh?
No, it's Saturday, Mr. Boss.
Makes no difference if it's Saturday. I wonder if your principal knows where you are. Maybe I should call him.
We've been going to town. We're going to town by a baton for Scout here.
Oh, don't you lie to me, Jeremy Finch. Miss Atkins told me you broke down her scrubber arbor this morning. She's going to tell your father, and then you'll wish you'll never saw the light of day.
I haven't gone outside all day, Mrs. Dubois.
If you aren't sent to reform school before next week, my name's not Mrs. Dubois.
Oh, gee, Mr. Ball, don't be so
Don't
rough.
gee me, you ugly girl. You shouldn't be in overalls. You should be in a dress. You nasty kids. You nasty. Atticus is a nigger lover. You nasty jerk.
Taken away from Scout, other known as Rochelle. Take one. Stop.
I can't see you. Okay, there.
Start over again.
Now. Wait, oh, shoot. What button does...
Sam, what are you doing, Sam? Sam, don't! You're wrecking Mrs. DuBose's flowers. Sam, stop! Stop, Sam,
If you don't stop screaming, I'll rip every hair out of your head.
No, Sam, stop! Sam, God, Sam! I'm Tom Atkins!
All right. Atticus finds out about Jem, that little bad boy. Take one.
Look, Jem, this looks like you.
Stop it. Stop the tape. Stop.
Won't stop, man.
Look, Jem, this looks like you.
Jem, are you responsible for this?
Yes,
Why'd you do it?
because Mr. Dubois said you're a nigger lover and you laugh for trash.
You did this because she said that?
Yes, sir.
I know you've been ashamed of me, lawn for niggers, but to do this to an old sick lady is unexcusable. I want you to go down and have a talk with Miss DeBose. Go on. Go on.
Shit, you idiot.
Look, Jem, this looks like you.
Jem, are you responsible for this?
Yes,
Why'd you do it? But to do this to an old sick lady, it's unexcusable.
Sorry, sir.
I want you to go down and have a talk with Mr. DeBose. Go on. Go on. Scout, come back here.
Scene 3, take 2. Atticus is a bad boy, little bastard.
Look, Jem, this looks like you.
Jem, are you responsible for this?
Yes,
Why'd you do it?
because Mr. Dubois said that.
You did this because she said that?
Yes, sir.
I know you've been annoyed about me. Doing this to an old woman, sick and all, is unexcusable.
I know, sir.
I want you to go down and have a talk with Mr. Bose.
Yes, sir.
Go on. Go on. Scout, come back here.
Scene 3.
Scene 3.
Four.
Scene 4, take 1.
Scene 4, take 1. Atticus talks to Mrs. Dubois. Yeah.
Well, Jem, what happened?
Oh, I cleaned up her yard, and she wants me to read for her. Do I have to, Atticus?
Certainly.
She wants me to read every day and on Saturdays after school.
You did it wrong.
You said it wrong, you idiot. Alright, scene 4, take 2. Gems comes back from Mrs. Dubois' house.
Yeah, you better make sure everything's cleaned up.
Well,
Well, Jem, what happened?
I helped Mrs. Dubois clean up her yard. She said I have to read for her. Do I have to, Atticus?
Certainly.
She wants me to read every day after school, and on Saturdays.
Then you'll have to do it.
But it's so scary. There's spider webs and there's shadows in her house.
Jem, that should appeal to your imagination. Just pretend it's Boo Radley's house.
Yes, sir.
Oh, baby.
Scene 5, take 1.
Scout,
Gem reading to Mrs. Dubois.
Scout comes too. Is that you, Jeremy Finch? Come on in.
Hi, Mr. Dubois. Howdy.
Oh, I see you brought your dirty little sister with you, huh?
My sister ain't dirty, and I ain't scared of you.
You can commence reading, Jeremy. Go ahead, come a little closer so I can see you. Sit next to me.
We moved our chairs closer, and the ugly face of the
Face.
witch.
Wit. Speak clearer, Jeremy. Don't you know how to read?
Yes, Dubois, Mr. Dubois. Old age livers
Live verse.
dot
Jeremy Smith, what grade are you in? I bet Scout can read better than you, huh? Go ahead.
No, Mr.
Go ahead.
I look toward
Toward.
the bed. Specially selected birds, and poplar for strength.
Does that mean it's time for us to go now, Jam?
Yes, Mr. Ball looks like she's having a heart attack.
No, I think she's just sleeping.
Boss,
Bye, Mr. Bud.
thanks a lot for letting us read with you. All right.
Hang on.
All right, scene 6, take 1. Last day of Gem reading to Mrs. Dubois. Ready?
Come on in.
Thank you, Mr. Dubois.
Don't thank you me, Jeremy Finch. Jeremy Finch, I told you you would live to regret this. You regret it now, don't you?
Yes, ma'am.
Thought you could kill my snow on the mountain, did you? Well, Jesse says the top's growing back out. You'll pull it out. Next time you'll do it right. You'll pull it out from the roots.
Yes, ma'am.
Don't you mutter at me, boy. You hold up your head and say, yes, ma'am. Don't guess you feel like holding it up, though your father what he is.
Yes, ma'am.
You can read now. You little nasty boy.
The last day I saw
You.
you
Seems like you could read better now after all this time, Jeremy.
walking.
What's it, a month and a week?
Yes, ma'am. Walking along with the curtains in your
Yeah.
hands.
Hand.
I want to see you in.
Don't you laugh. Jeremy, you little...
Turn up.
Take two.
Go.
Come on in.
I do, Mrs. Boss.
Don't hide me, Jeremy Finch. I told you you'd live to regret tearing up my camellias. You regret it now, don't you?
Yes, ma'am.
Thought you could kill my snow on the mountain, did you? Well, Jesse says the top's growing back out. Next time you'll know how to do it right, won't you?
Yes, ma'am.
You'll pull it up by the roots, won't you?
Yes, ma'am. Uh-huh.
Don't you mutter at me, boy. You hold up your head and say, yes, ma'am. Don't guess you feel like holding it up, though, with your father what he is.
Yes, ma'am. Uh-huh. Yes, I would.
You can read now, Jeremy.
Thank you, ma'am.
What's so funny, Mr. Finch? You and
The
your
book.
ugly sister Scout.
Book, ma'am. Jacquard woven wood in the Roman times. The night was dark and the desert was cold. And Mrs. Charleston was walking down the street. They peeped into a
Window. Sounds like a nigger lover's father's boy. He can't read dog. You should go live with them.
They peeked into the window to see a man and woman changing to go to a dinner. The clothes they were wearing were very beautiful. One day, while in bed, they installed hardware.
Well, go ahead. Come on. Don't have all day, Mr. Finch.
When pulled out, shades fold up like an accordion.
Aquarium. Accordion. Gosh, Jeremy Finch, now you got me all messed up. You little...
Sorry, Mr. DuBose. Sorry. This is book. It's funny book, Mr. DuBose. I'm sorry.
Oh, I don't find nothing funny about it, Mr. Finch.
Here's a better story, Mr. DuBose. The traditional style, this group offers...
What's so funny, Mr. Finch, huh? What's so funny?
It's a book.
It's you, Mr. Bose.
Don't you need me, you little ugly girl.
It's a book, Mr. DuBose. I'm sorry.
Now continue reading. I don't want to hear any more giggling out of you, too.
Sorry. This book is funny, Mrs. Boss. Here, I'll read this story. I like this one. I can read much better since I've been reading with you, Mr. Boss.
That's good, Jim. And that'll do for all.
Thank you, Mr.
Good
Boss.
day.
Thank you.
See you little
Let's go,
ugly
Scouts.
kids later.
Don't remember, we're not scared of you, Mr. Boss.
Oh, yeah, you just wait, kids.
Wait, stop. It's making that noise again.
It's making that noise again, Shane.
You know what, Sven? Death of Mrs. DuBose. Take one.
Hello?
Hello, is John there?
I see. Yes. Okay, I'll be done in a few minutes.
Jem, Scout, I'm going down to Mr. Boyle's house. I'll be back in a few minutes.
All right, Miss Brian.
Hi, Atticus.
I stopped. You idiot, Shane, man. Why'd you...
I wonder where Atticus is. Hi, Atticus.
Hi, Atticus.
What was wrong with Mr. Bullish?
Mr. Bowles died.
Take my phone.
Yes, Mom. Sorry.
When is Atticus coming home?
Hi, Atticus.
Are you Jem, Scout?
What happened to Mrs. DeBose?
She died this afternoon, and she wanted you to have this.
Thanks, Mr. Bullish.
You messed up again!
You can rip it up and throw it on the ground.
You rip it.
Yeah. Wonder where Atticus is.
Hey, Atticus.
Hi, Atticus.
Hi, Jem, Scout.
What happened to Mrs. DeBose?
She died this afternoon, and Jem, she wanted you to have this.
Stupid box of cane egg.
There, we're done.
Right now. Jem, everything's alright. You know, she was a great lady.
A lady? After all the things she said about you, Atticus?
She was. She had her own views about things. A lot different from mine, maybe. I told you that if you hadn't lost your head, I'd have you go read to her to see what real courage is, instead of getting the idea that courage is a man with a gun in his hand. It's when you know you're licked. Before you begin anyway, and you see it through no matter what. You rarely win, but sometimes you do. Miss DuBose won, all 98 pounds of her. According to her views, she died beholden to nothing and nobody. She was the bravest person I ever knew.
Hi, I'm Jem. I'm Jem.
I'm Atticus.
I'm Mr. Boaz.
I'm Scout.
That's Scout. No, this is Mr. Boaz. Mr. Boaz, wow, you have big muscles.
Well, right. Well, thanks, Miss Cannell. This is a great year having you in our class, and we really enjoyed it. Sorry about all the
Brown shades
complications.
noses.
Sorry about you having to call home.
Yes, and we're sorry that we've been all
Thank you for my
troublemakers.
lovely
It was all
award.
their fault. I think we've learned a
Hope
lot.
you enjoy our tape.
Yeah. It was fun making it. It took us
written
the
the
whole
whole
Took us
weekend.
a long
hours.
time.
It took us so long. Took
And I
us
almost got
Saturday
in
and
big
Sunday.
trouble from my
Rochelle,
mom.
Rochelle
never
gets in trouble though, you know.
Yeah,
And
Mary.
remember, A is okay.
Your mother nature, as
Plus is
Ken would
better.
say. A is right. A is great. Booty rules. No, Ken's a jerk because he just potty mouth. Don't listen to this on the tape in front of the class. Well, thanks, Miss Kendall. It's been a fun year having you as our teacher, and I think you're the greatest. And your daughter's pretty nice too.
Thank you, Miss Campbell.
We love you.
Bye.
Happy New Year. Merry Christmas. These are the final dedications, and I'm glad that my equipment survived. Hasn't made 9. Yeah. Rochester. Rah, rah, rah. And I'm sure okay too. Thanks, Miss Kendall. Thanks, West staff. I'd like to thank West. I've been there for 3 years, and it's really been good. Thank you, Mr. Clark, Mr. Cleveland, Mr. Barnon, and I think Thank you, West staff. It's really been a-okay time. USA, only in America. I'd like to dedicate this movie, this plagiarizing, to all my underclassmates and their future assignments. I'd like to thank John, Kent, and Rochelle. Shane, that's me. I was Jem. John was Mrs. Dubrow. Rochelle was Scout, and Kent was Atticus. It was a real fun time, and I can't wait to party this summer. Next year, it's going to be Rochester or Adams, and we'd like to thank all the teachers from getting us there. And if we had to pay them, cheat, or do our homework. It's been a memorable 3 years. But God, I'm glad I'm getting out of West. Thank you. Class of '89. Beer, sex, drugs.